Kia ora koutou katoa. This video shares with you our Cook Islands Investment Corporation's 2020 Te o Akonoanga no Te Mānokonokoanga o Te Taokotaianga, or Statement of Corporate Intent, and specifically what we have been doing in the corporate governance space over the last 12 months.
Governance is an aspect that the board of CIIC have focused on over the last 3 years. Governance courses that we hold regularly here, and we have done for the last 3 years, focus on the 4 key aspects of governance. These are strategy, risk, finance, and governance itself.
So you all would have received Adrian's bio note. I'm not going to read it out. The important things for us to know is, number 1, he's Achuan. So that's probably it, actually.
Tātou katoa, tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome everyone, and I just want to say it's an amazing honour to be here. In true form of an Achuan, we learn by making mistakes and hurting ourselves on the way through. So I've got plenty of bruises and skinned knees and elbows from governance roles and from CEO roles. What I've learnt through time is that this is not rocket science, it's not brain surgery, or even, as my good friend used to say, it's not rocket surgery. What we're doing, it's about having your heart, your mind in the right place. You don't have to be the expert, you don't have to be the domain guru, you don't have to be the smartest person on whatever the particular issue is in the room. You have to have your heart and your mind focused on the purpose to which you're in the room. So
one of the challenges that we've all got, I guess, is that because we are funded by the public purse, is the challenge of being, we have political leaders who've got quite a short time frame, right? Their time frame is from election to election. And we understand that, that's how politics runs. But it is a challenge for us, right, in trying to have that long-term horizon because of the political focus. Any thoughts or comments around that?
Yeah, I think that's, what you're facing there is probably one of the number 1 challenges internationally in any business, and it's not just elected officials who sort of 3 or 4 or 5 year governance program. It's also about how you engineer and hardwire the entire living beast of an organism called a company. If you've hardwired your management to a 3-year bonus structure or something like that, well, then it's just there's always a cycle. Humans always want some endpoint where there's some measure or gratification. I would say, in the simplest terms, particularly for the SOEs and represented here, there's something called a goal. Now, what is the goal? What is the purpose of what you're trying to achieve? And for a public owned asset, that goal always has to be determined by the elected people, by the representatives of the elected people, i.e. their government or the community trust or whatever it is. They need to set the goal. So, you can't have management saying what's the goal of this using someone else's capital. But the goal doesn't mean they then have to be in charge of everything around how it is then operated. That is why the importance of having that clarity of purpose shared between the minister or whoever it is and the board and management, because you want to be reporting back to the minister around the goal, not around operational activities.
So look, great to have had Adrian and his experience, both as a governor and manager here this morning, and similar focus now for our next guest speaker. So I'm really pleased to introduce Kirsten Patterson, or KP as she is known to us. She had a really interesting both management and governance career, including time with the New Zealand Rugby Union, Chartered Accountants Australia, New Zealand, and now as the CEO of IOD.
Everyone. Thank you, Karen. It's honestly, it is a great honour to be invited to speak to you all today. So thank you very, very much. And of course, following Adrian is always the worst part of the program. given he is so articulate and obviously has a wonderful way of storytelling. So what have I observed in terms of board practice? The boards that I'm on and the boards I get to hear about and observe. Adrian talked about horizon. Always start with the why. Now is not the time to forget your purpose and your strategy. Don't allow the devil to distract you from your path. Keep your eye on that long-term horizon and on your purpose. Normally in board practice, we would advise you that best practice is noses in, hands out, meaning that our role as directors is governance and not management. We get to look, but we don't get to be hands-on. But in a crisis, that has to change a bit. We're forced to dance this kind of dance where we actually need to step forward more often. But then in other areas, we need to step back more to allow management to get on with actually doing the job and what needs to be done. But what you need more than any policy in a crisis is good people and good values. And Adrian talked about that. Without values, your teams won't have a framework for the decisions that they're going to need to make, and you won't have confidence in them to act.
We hope you've enjoyed the highlights from our Managing Through a Crisis training. Over the last 2 years, CIIC has rolled out best practice corporate governance tools to directors. We have improved our director appointment processes with the formal expression of interest, or EOI process and promotion now in place. We have also achieved a lot in progressing policy and legislation across a number of areas. During 2019, Cabinet approved CIIC's revised corporate governance policy. In December 2019, the amendment to the Cook Islands Investment Corporation Act was passed, modernizing the requirements for the appointment of directors and making other reforms to the arrangements governing directors and the board. Likewise, in December 2019, the amendments to the Airport Authority Act, Bank of the Cook Islands Act, Ports Authorities Act, and the Aponga Oira Acts were passed. During 2019 and 20, CIIC also played a key role working alongside other agencies in preparing legislation across a number of areas, including Infrastructure Act, Seabed Minerals Act, Telecommunications Act, and the Competition and Regulatory Act. This brings you to the end of our video presentation of what we have been doing in corporate governance at CIIC in 2019 and 2020. We look forward to building on this corporate governance work into the future to achieve our vision, effective and efficient public assets that improve the well-being of Cook Islands people. Me taki maata, kia orana e kia manuia.